Good morning. It is Saturday, August 13th, 2022. My name is Barbara With, and you are here with me and the Party of 12, a delightful group of souls working in the afterlife for world peace and also to help us birth this new humanity. And of course, headed up by none other than Albert Einstein. And this morning, we are going to talk about how to deprogram our own brainwashing. And to some extent, all of us are brainwashed. We're brainwashed into thinking that we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or we're not abundant enough. And so this morning, we're going to take a deep dive into some practical ways to actually remove the blocks for us to manifest the abundance that is our birthright. So, welcome to the party.
On is that the censoring has been real,
Yeah.
and that it's not just the money makers, it's not just the platforms, because the people making money are the people who are going to scream and squeal the loudest, so we know about them. But this whole idea, and just recently Facebook, all around Roe versus Wade, a mother and a daughter have been charged, and it's Facebook allowing them to go to her Facebook page. She's in a state where it's not allowed. Each time that happens, it triggers, number one, it triggers emotionally and spiritually all of us who have our feelings about that. And then it amasses a backlash. But it's just a reminder, but we are more and more the public, how we came from WikiLeaks to where we are, and people shut down between there and here. It's
Well, and that's kind of why I wanted to pick this topic of the brainwashing of not just the masses or the self, but I realized that all these years of work that the angels and Einstein and the party and all of us who've been doing conflict revolution and exploring, this was always about dismantling our own brainwashing. It was always about that. Because in the beginning, the brainwashing was we had voices in our head that said we're not good enough, or we can't do this, or we're not smart enough, and we were just brainwashed into those, it was part of what made those patterns, was that. So of course, in looking up brainwashing, intensive doctrination aimed at changing a person's basic convictions and attitudes and replacing them with a fixed and unquestioned set of beliefs. So let that ring a little bit. So many levels. I'll read it again. Intensive indoctrination, might have to look that up, aimed at changing a person's basic convictions and attitudes and replacing them with a fixed and unquestioned set of beliefs. So the brainwashing that takes place when you censor means they remove those who question the beliefs.
Yes, that came to my mind. The first word that popped out was censoring. That's the whole premise of the censorship. Is this is not to be questioned by anyone. This is, and then I also what rings for me is the changing and replacing, because
Right.
we need to have our own experiences and our beliefs based on our own beliefs, rather than somebody trying to come in and change them, replace them. Yeah, you're looking up indoctrination.
I have to. I can't. I was going to look it all up, but
Insanity. Yeah, especially since doctors.
Yeah,
right.
That's what comes to me as the doctorate.
Yeah. Doctor is from the Latin meaning to teach, actually.
Indoctrinate, to instruct in a body of doctrine, to teach to accept a system of thought uncritically. To teach to accept a system of thought uncritically. In response to what you were saying, Lynn, about how did this leap come, how did suddenly all these people, the indoctrination that was, I believe, intentional and pre-planned, and the human psyche ripe for the picking, the levels of fear, the corporate takeover of the government, which is now complete pretty much. I've been trying to tell people about corporate fascism, corporate takeover of the government for 10, 12 years now, and people do not want to hear about it. And a lot of people wouldn't think that way, like still buy the democracy. Throw all that stuff at them and suddenly they are brainwashed. And they accept the uncritical part of it.
They don't want us to think for ourselves. And the media has, I've been aware of this brainwashing or subliminal media, subliminal programming, thank you, for many, 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 many years. And they spend maybe billions of dollars with psychiatrists to figure this out, how best to get us. And because it is all for profit, all for manipulation and control. Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, we're all critical here.
Yes, and that's so key.
Yeah.
Or discerning, maybe, is a better.
Discerning, capital D, discerning.
Well, although I'm critical, but it's like someone said recently, Newton was the thing for 200 and some years until Einstein came along and challenged the accepted way of thinking, which is what science is supposed to be doing. I mean, if they were really science, they would all be challenging each other and finding new and better ways to address the situation. But because it wasn't that at all, I was just going to quick look up doctrine. The principle or creed of principles presented for acceptance or belief. So the principles that are religious, political, scientific, or philosophic groups, dogma, theory. Okay, so back to this idea that I was brewing about, that for years and years, we've been taught to monitor our own brainwashing. In the model, who's doing the brainwashing is what has been called the voices of culture. That as we grow up, we're programmed with these voices of culture from various influences, etc. I got to thinking about the long view. How are we going to continue to unbrainwash ourselves? The Earth, according to science that we know now, is thought to be about 4.5 billion years old. Humans are 200 to 300,000 years old. So you have the Earth, this huge part of its existence without humans. There's all this length of time that the Earth exists without humans. And then humans evolve. So if compassion is creating this evolution of to eventually get to the creation of the human species, and that happens, and somehow animals who have this sort of emotion and intuition fused together in instinct takes this third step to now we have intellect that adds to that and creates these creatures who now have this free will, been given this free will that they don't know what to do with. From there, they evolved. That was the experiment. Like, okay, now we're going to give them this free will and let's see how they evolve. And they've evolved to where we are today. in the sort of the brink of World War III. And even after going through all those lessons, all those civilizations, all that stuff, we're perched here in this world of us versus them and greed. People doing for the good of the few at the expense of the many. And in Einstein's work from Afterlife, realizing that you can only influence one person at a time, so to speak, and each person has to undo their own brainwashing, and that the brainwashing doesn't only exist from the culture we grew up in these lives that we're living here, but in past lives. So now there's layers of these voices of culture, and that you don't even know maybe where they're coming from at the time they're coming through you. And so we've been given this formula for managing that system in a way that creates regeneration. And we've been planted here in the time when it's most needed. How brilliant of a plan is that? And Einstein and the Party and the angels and everybody's been working on lots of things, but to keep us healthy. Those of us who are doing this consciously and taking the hits that visions take, you know, when you're visionary, there's a lot of satellites coming at you when you're the head of the comet. But there's the whole comet that's erupting, and that's the new humanity that's birthing. And we're part of the anchors. And every day I'm humbled by all of this that we've done and that we're doing. And
Beautifully said.
And as in every August, we're in the middle of the Perseid meteor shower. Speaking of,
that's right. You mentioned that before. I have to watch for that. It's been beautiful weather up here. Very
yeah, same here.
clear
Just
skies.
gorgeous. And a big full moon we just had.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Aquarian in Aquarius. Mhm.
The other thing that I believe has happened is in bringing forth names like Gaia, in bringing forth knowing now in these times, the earth is alive. And all the years the earth has been here, it has frozen. It has been a ball of fire. It has had its own trajectory, whatever that is. And knowing that there are many, many people talking about our spiritual relationship to the earth and it to us, and a tipping point that comes from the heart connection, heart math, and so on, that is not always the common conversation and not always available to the general public, because that's a real leap at this point. But when Barbara Marx Hubbard, said, we have come to the place where we are source looking back on itself, and we're beginning to know that. I'm paraphrasing broadly. So the earth has the option, with or without anything we've done to it, to freeze over again. And even with all that has happened, we have had this wonderful period of time on the planet where weather patterns and other things that we have been allowed this beautiful time to exist everywhere from the tropics to the North Pole. So I'm a facilitator for a symposium that's now online and no longer needs us live at the front of the room. And it's the Pachamama Alliance. And that program went from where we've been as humans to where we are to where we're going. And the piece that hooked me is, what are the possibilities for the future? And in the multimedia presentation, which was beautifully done by the Pachamama Alliance, it went through the scenes of war and all of the different disruption that has gone on the planet. And yet possibility was the piece that was continuing to be held. And we have had this opportunity to thrive. So there's no dinosaurs to ride or talk to. I just want to kind of interject, and I did this in the symposium. We have to realize Atlantis and everything else matters, but there have been big changes on the earth.
Well, the Anishinaabe have a creation story, which I won't tell the whole thing, but one of the main salient points is that the first human was in dire danger and the animals saved him. And part of the deal was that it was now his job to protect all of them, including the water and the air and the soil and everything that the earth gave for sustainability. And it makes me wonder if in all those years of dinosaurs and ice ages that sort of like how I felt about the third group reading when we first did diaries, where I started thinking, I don't think this is just an accident. I don't think this is just them like talking off the top of their heads. I think this is super planned. And maybe all those things and all those civilizations was so now Gaia, Mother Earth, who is a salient being with Father Sky, creates an Earth that is completely is going to allow these new humans that they're emerging, that we're birthing, to thrive. And the only thing that they have to do is take care of everything that we're giving these humans that are there to help them survive. So the humans, the indigenous humans who didn't have technology or any of that, and then we come to a time where it all changes and the humans are not taking care of the earth. These are like conversations we've had for the past 3 weeks, right? They're suddenly it's oil and they're taking everything out and it's not biodegradable and the skies are getting and the water's getting so I'm wondering if that intelligence isn't just random, like, oh, this happened and then humans came accidentally while there was trees and animals to eat or whatever. No, I think it was a glorious big plan, and it's why your predictions, the Pachamama predictions, and Joanne said it, of this being a garden again, are not far off because people are understanding this now. And whether we see it in the next year, we've seen over the course of so many years, the understanding and the changing of the course. We're just not full straight ahead into fossil fuels, even though, don't get me going on that latest bill, where now they require that they get fossil fuel contracts. For every new energy, this fossil fuel companies now have to get contracts to build pipelines.
I think corporations have run the government for a long time because the people who had the time to actually go and spend and get a stipend have not been the common man, other than on the immediate community and state levels. It's a rarity. So I think it's been there, but I think again, the light's being shed. I've been watching for things that are coming out very quietly that say there are going to be large numbers of people leaving the planet. That, is notable in the fact that the medical industrial complex continued to build through this last 2.5 years. The particular guesswork that went into this inoculation has put people at risk. And so if people are going to leave, they're going to go by way of some means that ends their physical existence. And so where's the dance between what's been created and what was asked for?
I remember hearing that back in when I first started getting readings with Eunice McCoy, that there was going to come this time where there was going to be very large numbers of people leaving the planet. So who knew, when I was 19 what that really meant? But it certainly seems as though, although the death rate from COVID wasn't anywhere, like massive numbers of people leaving the planet, unusually.
Not even close.
Yeah. So
But that would have been a lot of people to deal with. If you can walk them through getting ill and getting, medical and pharmaceutical and all these, you are making a system by which people get to leave, and they're not leaving en masse. And it's inadvertently, maybe the two are connected.
I don't think anything's inadvertent.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Joe. So, but it's hard for me as a human, with my mind still expanding here and there. When I come up with these ideas, my heart goes, "Oh, that just can't be. Tell me it can't be. Tell me it can't." And that's just the attachment that I have. I've said for a while now, we're addicted to physical form. And like the smallest cell, we are here to take care of that, and protect and so on. So some of our choices come from there. There is free energy on the cusp. So with the oil company attachment and all the work that Nassim Harming and others around the globe now, they've got it set so that if any one of them or a number of them are actually taken out, or they're, some of what's happened in history, that there are enough of them on the cusp of free energy coming back to the world. It's been here. And Tesla and other things being realized fully, then no matter what kind of convoluted attachments and so on they put on the bill, we're headed in that direction. So that was my other piece. I just love you guys, because this has all been bottled up in here, and it's like Joe knows. I mean, we can't get on Skype for less than 4 hours.
Let's maybe get to the channel. So let's start by taking a few deep breaths together. And get in touch with your body. Where you're sitting. Remind yourself what time it is, what day it is. It's Saturday, August 13th, 2022. This is 10:56 a.m. Central Time. And we put a pin in that time and space as a way to build a wormhole. So we will command that only the most divine light shine down upon you at this time, and that the greatest good be present here. We mark that time and place as a wormhole, so that later on, when you are listening back, there is an energetic connection to the body that you're sitting in right now on Saturday, August 13th, 2022, 10:57 a.m., 10:58 a.m. And through this energy, you build this wormhole that creates vision and memory. So from being consciously connected to yourself through time and space, remembering the body that once had been, you're unifying your field. You continue to do the work on a rather sort of subatomic level of unifying the field that is your energy. This field unification has to go step by step. Can't be something that just solidifies all at once, or you'll explode. So you have to take years, lifetimes, civilizations to learn over and over what is needed to solidify yourself to the whole of the earth, to the entire 4.5 billion years that the earth has existed. And you know the funny thing about that in actuality, this system is eternal. And the manifestation on the lens of what the earth looks like and what's going on the earth is programmed by that greater consciousness. We call it compassion as the fifth fundamental force of the universe, but it's bigger than that. It's infinite. So all those years where the earth exists without humans is also comparable to the part of the earth that exists in potential before you get to the lens. So, as Einstein learned, it's not that if I'm looking at the moon, it's not there. It's that it becomes the potential, the energy potential that interacts with the human to cause the perception of the moon to be achievable. So you as a human looking at that moon, you're a part of that reality. You're a part of making that reality come true. You're not separate from the moon. The moon isn't there without you, or you, or you. So in this time period that you're in, that we have repeatedly said was all pre-planned and perfectly divinely timed to get you here today where you are, when the world needs people to be that strong. And when we think about the small group of people that we reach in terms of the 7 billion that are on the planet, 8 billion, however many, the power, however, within that small group is also infinite. That the people who change their universes through their own self-awareness, their own self-loving, their own intention, their own vision, and their own projection of the sustainable world as it's supposed to be, that power is bigger than you'll ever know. You don't have to collect up a bunch of people to do it. You change the entire universe because that's your universe. And if that's what you're projecting, even in these times where it doesn't look like it's happening, and even if then you leave the planet with this body not having seen it happen, it still has that power to bolster the vision, to strengthen the direction. And from there, from the head of the comet, trickles down the change in the individuals as well. And don't be mistaken, it's all one individual at a time. But if in your vision that's how it works, then that's what you're helping to create. So then, when many people do get together and share the same vision, there is strength in that. There is power in that. But don't think that you alone can't be a huge impact with your unshakable vision of the future, that the new humanity is being birthed right now, right before your eyes. And it's not always easy to watch. It's not easy to watch a child being born. But you have and you are. And as you vision this child, growing up to be straight and true and honest and working for the good of the whole together, knowing that the power together of working for the good of the whole creates everything that's needed to thrive. And what changes is what you're thriving to be. Because of the unsustainable collapsing foundation that was built upon plastics and oil and drugs, the crumbling of that foundation also crumbles what people strive to be. They remove themselves from that system of striving to make more money, striving to have more things, striving, even for those of you who have stopped striving for those things, you still have brainwashing within yourself that makes you think you have to strive for that money, that or else you'll be broke. You don't let that indoctrination take over your thinking, but it's so deeply embedded in you that you shouldn't be surprised if it rises up and embodies in yourself again. So don't be surprised that you go through anxiety about lack, because these are your opportunities to capture that and understand it as that indoctrination of the brainwashing of the voices of culture, because your natural native state, when you're taking care of the world around you as it takes care of you, is in this full health. And the abundance comes from an inner light that shines from within you, knowing that you have created a world that takes care of you and you take care of it. And that metaphor can be applied to each individual. The world around you is learning that to take care of the earth is going to be the only way to survive. So as you watch these changes come about, know they are part of this birth. Know that all the struggles and the losses of the people who have left the planet and are going to leave the planet are not wasted. They're part of the mechanism of evolution, of learning to sustain and create this good for the whole. And in that balance, the thriving begins. So much of what's difficult for humans when they're in their human body is to understand the suffering or the striving that feels like sometimes it doesn't get anywhere, and what to do, and sort of trapped in that human existence. Because when you leave the physical body and you come into afterlife in this continuing unified field, and you get to see your life from such a different perspective. And yes, there's a lot of regrets. You don't even know the times where you regret. And that's okay. It's part of the processing and the continuing unification after you pass and you process all of these decisions that you've made and you integrate them, and then you go on. And what you realize is that all those dramas, that was the passion. That was the passion to be human. And that you are living your passion to your fullest, whether it's your suffering or your joy. You're feeling it. You're experiencing it. You're continuing to strive to the evolutionary level of creating new humans who don't have to fight one another. New humans that have health and vitality that originate within. That's why this work of dismantling your brainwashing is painstaking, but so important. And we applaud all of you all of you who have pushed yourself to develop a witness of yourself and then watch your thoughts and then catch yourself in the act of those thoughts and made a change. To you, we salute you, because this is the painstaking work that will help others not have to do that painstaking work. So thank you for that and for being here to work so hard at this with your passion. And you're going to see in the weeks and months ahead noticeable shifts in many different areas of culture. You're going to see the people who are not being allowed to do something because they're not vaccinated. These people reaching deep inside and finding that there's something more important than that thing that they were striving for, whether it's that job or that sporting event or that trip, that there's something more important here. And so that is, in essence, using the circumstances to adapt and to let go one more time of all that cultural brainwashing that's been with you since you were born into these lives, because propaganda has been here for a century, more than a century, and you've never lived in a world without it. And as you release yourself from the propaganda of the news and the political and all of that, and you let go of it, there is this question sometimes of, well, now what do I have? Who am I any more than anyway? But that's where you begin to rebuild in a far, far, far more spiritual focus than you did when you were working your way through your life, through all those voices of culture. Now you have a chance to really let go of those things, and you will be taken care of if you take care of yourself. And yourself is Mother Earth, so there's the microcosm and the macrocosm. If you strive to make sure that your culture is moving towards taking care of the earth, and you strive to take care of yourself with self-love, working for the good of all, then you're making huge progress right now. And you'll see this in the weeks and months ahead. Different areas of culture coming to a bit of sanity, shall we say. So, well, with all of that said, we will open for questions and conversation.
Well, thank you. That was very inspiring. However, what's been very frustrating for me is striving to enlighten or provide someone with a different perspective from their programming, and they throw out a programmed response like labeling me a conspiracy theorist. And my real problem is handling others with their programming and brainwashing and determining when to confront and how. I have not been responding to keep the peace, but now have been speaking up if it involves me personally, although tempering my anger. Now the challenge is that anger. I know responding with love and compassion is key, but it's just so hard when issues are so sensitive and raw. And I've been having dreams of conflicts and old past toxic feelings with people from my past, responding in anger with them. Are these dreams releasing that toxic emotion, or just to get my awareness? So to do a revolving of that, I'd appreciate any insights.
Yes. Well, first of all, know that these situations that you're specifically dealing with right now are these platforms that are being created for you to be able to shift yourself. And the first thing to know is that aside from any of the issues with the family or the situation, whomever, right now there is this resurgence that's happening, not as if resurgence doesn't happen continually, but it's your awareness of it. And so this anger that's coming up is really looking for a place to be transmuted naturally. It's directing the anger that's your mind is identifying as these people and isolating it as it comes in as a sense in your body, in your skin, in your senses, and breathing it with your breath. The time right now, it is a safe time. Astrologically and spiritually right now, there's a lot of powerful stars in alignment. There's a lot of potential here to make really good, positive, powerful changes. One of the things that you're learning, Barbara's learning, everyone's learning, is that this is an ongoing process. It's not a destination. So when we say you're in this time where you're safe, you're secure, you're probably spiritually more connected than you've been in a long time, you're facing your child. You're facing your own aspect that has that anger, that wants to be right, that feels disqualified, that feels all these things. And this part of you has been with you all your life. It's not going to necessarily end in a day. It's part of having this relationship to that child. You have never parented a child, and so you have a bit of a deficit when it comes to understanding parts of yourself, that part of your child, and how to necessarily discipline as opposed to the times when you need to have compassion. These are two different things. One is continuing to understand that you have to capture that anger and redirect through breath work. And then knowing that your major job here is this relationship that you're having to yourself. When it comes time to be amongst the people who believe in what they believe in and want to silence you, this is this uncontested part of brainwashing, that when people are brainwashed and you confront them, then you're immediately going to kick in that response system that brainwashing has them, which is to reject the information. So for you, you've got two different classrooms. One is this whole thing we just described, but the other is also how to be thoroughly strategic about those interactions, first and foremost, to take care of yourself. Because that young, impulsive part of you that would react and respond is not taking care of you. Forget them. Let's talk about you. It's not, that aspect is not taking care of you. So when you start taking care of yourself that way, what happens is you lose that attachment to even wanting to enlighten them. But when you do that, two things happen. One is that you realize that maybe this isn't where you'd be spending your time if you were picking your close groups. And so at what level at the circle do they sit? Can they be put farther off to the back level of the circle in your who's closest in your inner circle? It doesn't mean you have to reject them or not have them in your life. They're not who you thought they were. And then you're not who you thought you were. You want to not be that kid that uses that anger. If you can do that, see, this is the great thing that you don't give yourself credit for, is that this is such an advanced capacity to be able to do all that. It's really the advanced capacity. So while you're having these interactions, these platforms, you're expanding your capacity right now. And you'll see as you move forward with this, how just you taking care of yourself in that way and really doing some transformation with that child, and it's ongoing, then you shift into the more Gaia place too. And if everyone can shift into realizing that you are the earth, we talk about the transformation of the planet and then it creating this atmosphere and sustenance for humans to evolve, as if humans were independent of it. No, you are the earth too. So when you do your prayers and you do your meditation and you get into the fact that you are the earth, then you can send your energy like trees do from tree to tree all across the planet. You can send that spiritual energy of yours to help fortify where the earth needs fortifying, to help fortify where humans need fortifying as well. So keep at it and you're such a critic of yourself that we'd love to see you take a vacation from that.
Oh, yes, that's a very needed vacation. Thank you so much for those insights. Yes, transmuting my anger and taking care of me, that's very good, very key. I see that. And I have to say, I'm so thankful for this circle and for the party. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. We're going to close the channel at this time and leave you with our great gratitude. Because as we all work together, change is being directed into compassion. Change is going to happen as we all work together in these ways, particularly with you self-loving and with us here in the party, looking over your shoulders, giving you inspiration and insights, working together in unseen ways from your conscious mind. It is indeed a big party. And we are so honored to have all of the circles that we have here in Afterlife. The amount of observation that's going on here, the size of the party, the different areas that people are studying and making influences on. You may seem like just a lone human sometimes when you're off by yourself, but there's so much going on and it's influencing all around the planet. So many different people reaching so many different areas of culture. When Princess Diana had gotten into Afterlife and she decided to focus her energies in a particular field having to do with Pakistan and India and the work that she had done there and the people that she had met and the influence she was able to have in those areas. Those are people who you, Debbie, or Barbara would never touch, but because you touch her part of the party, it's such a huge mechanism, this one organism. And we are so excited about you coming awake and into this greater awareness with us. Because then we all can just watch and be amazed. So namaste.